Hello and welcome to Control Alt Marketing. I'm your host Meeta Mandavkar. Today I'm chatting with Abhimanyu Saha, co-founder of GuruQore, former strategy and planning director at Experience Commerce, and a marketing educator who's changing the game. Abhimanyu is passionate about teaching the next generation of marketers to become 360 marketers. In today's episode, he talks about how he got into advertising, his experiences working in digital account planning right from its inception, something called as trial by presentation, and a lot more. Now, here are some interesting facts about Abhimanyu. He's played national level cricket, he studied biotech for his undergrad, he's done his MBA in advertising, and he's a keen music producer whose song has been featured on the Spotify editorial list. Now that I've set stage, let's meet Abhimanyu. Thanks, Abhimanyu, for coming on the show. I'm so excited to have you here. So, firstly, let's rewind. Tell me, how was it like growing up? I'm very curious about, what were the kind of passions and interests that drove you and, impacted your journey.
Firstly, thanks a lot for having me. I feel like a lot of gratitude for being here, firstly. Uh, in terms of my backstory, I think most of my childhood was spent in sports. Childhood meaning like maybe till standard 10, right? I was playing sports most of the time, and that would be cricket. I played that professionally. I was never a good student. Not one of the first benches. I was hardly able to understand what was happening in school, to be honest. Somehow like passing someone somehow crossing the line. So studies was not something that I was really interested in. I never understood what was happening. But yeah, I was playing professionally, so that meant that I was very far from school. Also, most of the times I was sort of traveling with teams. I was in summer camps, and these were like grueling camps of 3 months, 4 months that I was away from study. So most of my childhood was that, like preparing for national camps, playing cricket, then coming back and giving exams. Though I would have actually passed even if I wouldn't have given the exam, because we had this certificate, because I was playing national level, I was representing the state. You could just pass. But my father, being my father, he said that no, you have to give the exams. And then I would just come back, and the next day there was physics exam, let's say. So I'm like, okay, what am I going to really do? And my friends would be like, no, why are you asking to give the exams? We've been studying for so long, and we still don't know anything. How will this guy pass? But yeah, that's what most of my childhood was in terms of like really activities. I mean, I'm sure I've seen cartoons and all that, which is the usual stuff. But yeah, I mean, most of it was just me playing and preparing for these camps. That's what I did. That's still standard 10. After that, I realized that my parents would not really, while they were very open and really let me play for as much as I wanted, but the whole situation with sports as a career was not there. Even if it was cricket, I mean, I'm talking about 2000 and 2 and 3, right? So pre IPL, and if you would have played like Ranji and all, it's not like you couldn't live. We didn't have as aspirational role models to look up to. So then we had to like say, okay, now you got to study. So after 10th, I started studying, and I started figuring kya hai life mein, kya hai, and all that. Then that's when I figured that bio was a bit all right for me. And I thought, chalo, bio acha hai, to matlab I will become doctor. And that's the direct jump that I made in my head. So yeah, so that's when I gave some joint entrance and state entrance exams, and that was the most I had sprinted for exams and studying, like 3-4 months of focused studying I did. I never thought myself that I would be able to do it. That's for the first time maybe I figured that I really have that conviction thing, that if I want to do something, I can put my head to it. And I was ranked, I think 275 or something like that in the whole state for medical. Though I didn't get into in the whatever MBBS, because it was supposed to be the top 100, 120. But my parents were proud and happy. Like this guy who would never like worry about education in his life, was never interested, could do something. And yeah, I think that was it. That's my childhood.
So many exciting things over there. I think the part that you mentioned, so it's such a stretch, okay, from playing sports, from being someone who played at state level to just transitioning into like a very academic kind of a role wherein you are studying very diligently for bio, you're appearing for your medical entrance exams, you also end up ranking at a state level, though you did not enter medicine later on. And I think it was a probably a great decision in hindsight. But I think that's a very interesting part of your journey. I think next I would want to understand is so you later on you did your undergrad in
Yeah,
biotech. Okay, and I remember because we swapped like a lot of notes on life sciences versus biotech, and how was it like studying those pure sciences of sorts. So that's a very fascinating thing to study, and I think given your interest in bio is what prompted you to enter biotech over there. So what really happened? Like how did that journey start off? Like getting into biotech, and then you went on to do something completely different.
yeah.
So let's unpack
Now
that
that
part
you
of your
now that
journey.
you look at it this way, I'm getting also different perspective. But I mean, see, I figured bio was the thing that I liked, and then no, I couldn't crack the medical stuff. But because I got some ranking, there were these other sort of avenues that were available to me. So let's say, agriculture, agri BSc, and pharma. Those things were also there at that time, right? And my father was like, hey, you should do it. There were these new colleges that were opening up at that time, and government initiatives around these colleges were coming up. New colleges were happening in our state and in Northeast and different places. So he's like, you should do it, take it, and you'll get a gazetted rank sort of thing when you come out of this. Why? It's not bad. Like, uh, but I was like, I couldn't imagine myself doing that. That kind of work. And by that time, my brother had already come out of our state. So the context is that we are a very small state, Tripura, and we stay in the city. Even though it is the capital, it's still like exposure was very low. Now, though digital is a different discussion. So my brother had by that time come out, which is like one of the only few people on from our family who had come out, and he was, uh, you know, he did his BSc in IT from Kolkata, which is one step further. So you come out of the state. Then he got into like a MBA thing from ICFI, and at that time ICFI was one of the top 10 sort of MBA colleges and stuff like that. So he had a lot of exposure of life by that time, and he had come out, and he obviously guided me a lot at that time, and he supported me and told my father that it's all right, send him outside. And to have that kind of vision at that time, I feel like really blessed that my brother had that kind of vision at that time. He said to my father that send him outside for 5 years. If he doesn't do anything, he can come back. So, there was this timely thing, and my father was like still not sure. And then my brother was like, okay, I'll figure some colleges for him. And at that time, he was working in Delhi. He was like an investment banker sort of uh, profile for him. He had hard days. These are all very stressful roles. So then I came to Delhi. He figured that there are these DU colleges, which was way beyond my dreams, because my percentage was like I hardly got like 60 percentage or something, and we were in state boards, so we didn't have marks like the CBSE or ICSE people. And DU asks you like 95% to even give you the form. Like, DU is that kind of a place. So he's like, no, there's sports quota, and we'll get you through this national level thing that you have gotten. So then I went to all of these colleges, which were like the St. Xavier's and St. Stephen's and Hindu and all these famous colleges in Delhi. But then I couldn't get through because I figured at that point of time that sports quota was another way for politicians to get their people in. And that was another reality check for me. I mean, there would be one or two people they would get properly through sports, but then again, they will be local Delhi people or people who are playing in those states, right? So then I was like a little disappointed. I was like, okay, I don't want to use sports to get into whatever, sports done. I'm done with sports. And then my brother was like, okay, then go to Bangalore. That's where all the kachra will be going. So, right, I mean, not in so many words, but he was like, okay, go there. You can like take something up and study undergrad, clear karo. Even that time, he had a lot of vision. He said that, you will not get any job after undergrad. For sure, it won't be a good job, whatever you get. So, start preparing for your MBA or something like that. Why once you go. So then I said, okay, I'm good in bio. I want to do something bio. And then biotechnology was the hyped term, as you may know from that era. And then, I ended up in a college in Bangalore doing biotechnology. That's the biotech story.
Yeah, and then you went on to do your
Yeah.
MBA. So, like, I think things were going as per plan over there. Like, whatever path was envisioned, you were walking it.
I mean, yeah.
So then, what like next after that?
If you look at the like CV from a LinkedIn perspective, yeah, it would look like that. But the struggles were different for sure. I got into this college and then I figured that I don't like biotech. So, which is what I realized after like 6 months that, I can't do this lab stuff. I was not really a good, I mean, there are so many intricacies in terms of like, you lab, you have to be very good with precisions and your hands and stuff like that and figuring those amounts, right? I was not a person who was good at that, and I was struggling very hard. Even though I could understand the biochemistry of, at a first principle concept level, but I was not really good at, in actually doing the stuff. And I realized that I can't do it. So then I sort of said, look, this is the time. Then maybe I'll just explore life just big city life, explore, get to know what's happening, um, and that's when I also sort of started picking up music very strongly as a passion point of doing it. I was always into music. I would uh, in the time when I was preparing, like my childhood also had me being a big fan of bands and music and getting CDs and writing raps and poems, etc., because I was very much into that. But in college, it was the first time I got exposed to like people who were actually playing music. They were playing the guitar, they're in a band or something, and I was like, no, dude, I have to do this. So then once I gave up my focus on like biotech, I took up the focus on guitar playing, which itself is a hard skill to pick up. Uh, you know, because just like startups, a lot of guitarists fail, right? I'm sure that there's a percentage, but out of 10 people who pick up the guitar, I'm sure 7 8 people don't play it, right? Because it has a steep learning curve in terms of playing. So, but then again, I figured that if I put my mind to it, I could do it. So I would play the guitar whole night. People won't be able to sleep. I was practicing, and that's the stage where it doesn't actually sound good because you're trying to practice and figure out shape, right? And my roomies were all like, "What the hell is happening, dude? All the night you're practicing all the day." So I would practice day and night, and within sort of 3 4 months, I was like ready to play in a band, and I was like, yeah, I will play with you guys because I had like an inspiration. I was like, I'll play the next time with you guys. So then that phase of my life in Bangalore became all about music and the usual friends and night outs and all the other experience maybe that we don't need to speak about in this podcast. Maybe a separate podcast would be good for that. But yeah, I got all the life experiences and made friends and played and picked up a skill that would stay with me forever and time to come. So that's what happened. Then I sort of passed out. I When I was passing out of my graduation, obviously I had this whole sort of guilt that I am not going to get a job now because my parents will not pay anymore. That's like they've already put all of their savings, etc., to sort of send me out because understand while they were both doing jobs, my parents, the income level because we are from a smaller state, the expenses and living are low. But once you start thinking that of like a larger state, that money is pretty high, right, for colleges, etc. So they had to do that. So then I couldn't ask them for any more money. So I said, okay, some job has to be like taken up. And surprisingly or not surprisingly, our college campus had like call centers who had come to sort of recruit. I'm like, okay, very nice. Biotech, we did everyone. Now is this call center. So then call center jobs, and I was good at talking, as you can understand now. I was not a shy person. So maybe my English was not that good or whatever, but I was confidently speaking out. So a call center job would be all right for me. And, among all the people that we had in our college, when I went, maybe I cracked the interview for call center job. It was Wipro, and that job was in Hyderabad, and it all sort of aligned because my brother was also in Hyderabad at that time. So I was like, okay, whatever 10, 12K I'll earn, I'll be with him. I'll figure out the MBA stuff. I'll prepare for CAT, and I'll have this job and all of that. And I'm ready, so I'm going with this Wipro offer, etc. I'm shifting from Bangalore to Hyderabad, and I think the day I shifted or after I shifted, Wipro said that this Hyderabad job opening is not there or whatever. We have to go to Delhi for the same role, right? So then I was like, dude, Delhi jaake, they were not paying a lot, obviously, and getting a house, all of that would not work out. It would be again a mess and struggle of the first order. So then my sort of sister-in-law at that time, she was an HR in I think it was Patni Computers back then. Now I think it's something else. Uh, and she said that, okay, I know some HRs who I can speak to, and you can go and do these interviews because call centers the or be here. You can go and give sort of. So then I started going to one call center. It was called 24/7. I went, and then they said that it's not a voice function; it's a chat function. So I'm like, all right. I don't know how to type that fast, right? Because again, we didn't have that amount of exposure to laptops or this thing by that time. So I was not very fast, and there are other people who would from cities who would type way faster, right? And the chat function is all about how fast you can type. That was one of the barriers. So it was not about voice. So I gave a test. I failed. They didn't take me in, and they said that okay, you can come back again because I know your whatever sister-in-law. You can come back again and give another one if you feel that you can try like practicing a little bit of typing. Come back. So then I went back home, and then I downloaded at that time the software called Type Master Pro, and this is 2010. And then I started typing, and I typed for like 4 days, and I made my typing better. And then I went back the next week to give that interview, and then I come out successful on the other side because my typing speed had increased. All this for a typing job, imagine, like a call center job. But I'm happy. I get this job in this company called 24/7. It was pretty big call center. I don't know if they exist now. So I come back and then okay, all right, it's nice. You have a job. I'm getting settled with my like family and my brother, sister-in-law, and then by that time that is happening, I've already been exposed to my brother being in Deloitte, and he talking about the nice culture that it is, and all that things that they get, and I'm like, very nice. Then my brother was also not very comfortable with me working in a call center because he thought that maybe the growth won't be there. Like where will you go from there? So he was looking and finally found one job in Deloitte or a function under consulting, which took undergrads because Deloitte at that time would only take these specific master people or MBAs or MS people, etc. So there was an undergrad thing. So I was like, yeah, let's go. So I went. There were 20 people who were interviewing for this one spot, and all undergrad people who were local from Hyderabad, etc. And thankfully, the test that we had to give was like this CAT type test that I had prepared for so long. And I couldn't crack CAT, but I was preparing for it all the time. The first time I gave CAT undergrad, I got some 60 percentile. Not happening. But then I was preparing for CAT, so I knew this logical reasoning, DI, and type of the kind of test that they had put up. I was comfortable with compared to the other people who were just undergrads and just came for that. So then I went through, I gave the test, I got through. And obviously there was referral also from my brother being in Deloitte. That obviously helped. I can't just say that it was me. And then I got the job in Deloitte. So that's the story of how I got to Deloitte.
That was quite a merry adventure. I had no idea that you had your roots, I mean, your interest in music kind of really took off from that, I don't want to call it a debacle, but it did feel like a debacle back then, right? The whole biotech thing, like it wasn't something that was working out. But you discovered like a new interest which has stayed on with you right until this day. So I think that's a very interesting takeaway from this. And the journey is so interesting. Like, trying to find your first role after an undergrad in pure sciences, I think it's an adventure in itself. And yours was even more so. I think the whole Type Master Pro,
Yeah, that's the story I
the
tell
kind of
everyone.
things that we do, typing for 4 days straight just to get a job, making sure that, you're able to chat that fast. I think that's adulting at its best.
I think so. Yeah.
Great, great. So, at that point of time, like you were working, and then you were also preparing for your MBA at the same time, and you ended up getting into symbiosis after that.
Yeah.
So, how was your journey? Like, I mean, the whole you knew that you were going to do your MBA. You ended up there. How was the experience like there? And what exactly happened like after MBA? Because that's when your career in advertising really like started.
Uh,
So let's dive into your advertising career.
Nice stories there also. I mean, this nice. I mean, I think I made good stories out of my life, whichever way you want to see it. But when I was preparing CAT second time, this is after Deloitte, and I worked there 1 year, and then I started preparing again. Again, I was really not good at academics as such. Like a person who would be like, I'm not a very intelligent quote unquote person who would go by maths and DI and like really like the usual thing that they look for in CAT tests. I was not that person. I figured that initially, but at that time we didn't have mentors as we have now in today's day and age, where someone can tell you, dude, you're not good at this, just move on, do this or do that, right? Because options were also so low, you could not fathom that, oh, you're not good at it, just do it, man, and figure out. But sometimes you're just not good at it. So I figured that maths मेरे से नहीं होता है उतना complicated चीजें, and I was good in logical reasoning for sure, and I was good at English थोड़ा बहुत, but rest I was not able to cover, right? So even the second time when I gave CAT, I was not like up there. It was like some 65, 67 percentile, which was not even funny because there's nothing coming to you with that percentile. MAT was an easier exam. I think I gave that. उसमें कुछ 90, 95 percentile आए, but this is the layer below CAT, right? MAT. There was I was okay there, right? But I also gave Simbi specific exams because Simbi had this snap sort of exam which would give access to this SIBM and these top Simbi colleges. There also I did not do well and I was shitting bricks most of it. But there was this college called SIMC. I saw that, and because of my interest in music, I saw their like studio and their outboard gear and all. I'm like, there ही जाना है. Like, this is the place. It looks like I will go, right? And by that time, another interest that I may have not touched till now, but by that time, when I was growing up and I was seeing a lot of TV, obviously growing up in cartoons and series, and I was to obviously watch cricket throughout the day of highlights. Say Purana, it doesn't matter. Like my parents, my mother would be like, "What is this guy doing all the time watching some sports?" I would watch his ads that would be coming through, right? And one thing I used to do very, very strongly was that I would recreate the ads in my mind. Not telling anyone, but just I would recreate in my mind, like, oh, this could be better this way, this could be better this way, this could be done this way. So I was getting those things intuitively in my head. I mean, there was no exposure of ads or advertising. I didn't even know there's something like this exists. We would just see ads, that's all. So when that thing 7, 8 years down the line, I connected and I said, okay, dude, there's this MBA in advertising. Why am I not going for that? Looks like there's something strong that I can connect to, right? And then I saw SIMC, there was this whole studio. So all that sort of made me warm and fuzzy about this college called, Symbiosis Institute of Media and Communication. And they thankfully also accepted a lower snap score and for sort of entry. So I went to the GDPI and I scored high in GDPI because that's where my skills were, right? Group discussion and personality, like high score, right? So though my like written scores were low, I covered a lot in the personal interview and group discussion as a person. So I got like equal good marks or higher there. So my snap score somewhere came where I got then entry to this college called Symbiosis Institute of Media Communication. It was a huge thing. Like, I was like anxious, waiting. They were like second list, third list. I was, I think, in the third list. And I got through there. And so, yeah, that started. And I think once I was in that college, because it was such a niche course and it was specifically built towards gearing you up to be an advertising professional, I fell in love with that course. And this was the first time I was studying, and people would call me a closet nerd. They would call me a closet nerd because at the face of it, I was this sports person, musician, tattooed person who's just roaming around. Like, I'm not the usual. Like, the people, they're studious. They won't study. Meeta is a studious person. Right? Meeta's gonna study, right? But you don't look at me and ever say that this guy's gonna be like doing assignments or and like everyone was like, oh, Saha, he'll do all this shit, but he is closet nerd. Remember, he will study, he will do all the assignments, he will research, he will get like, go out and do all the stuff. So I also figured for the first time in my life, I was doing something that I really liked. And then it didn't stop me from studying. And it made me realize that if you find the right things that you are interested in, you will study, you will read, you will want to know more and more, right? So then that 2 years were a blast for me because I learned everything from consumer behavior to marketing itself was so interesting. And, there were like, behavioral psychology classes, behavioral economic classes. And I was like, yeah, man, I was like, give it to me. Sort of. So yeah, that's what happened.
This goes on to show, like you mentioned, that if you truly love something, you're going to find a way to study more, to do more of it. You'll really enjoy it, assimilate it. But the whole journey of discovery, that's what that's what takes
Yeah.
time. Just figuring out what is it that really interests you. So basically, advertising was always there somewhere at the back of the
Yeah.
mind. Maybe it was not very clear enough, but things kind of finally clicked when the whole symbiosis thing happened, and when you could relate your interests, you could even relate the kind of things you were being taught in the curriculum. So you were always meant for advertising in a way. It just took you a slightly
Longer time.
longer amount of time to
Right.
just reach there.
And I'm so grateful that I did, like, sort of went there.
And you've had like a great journey after that. Okay, so you started your advertising journey like post your MBA with account planning in itself. Your internship was also in account planning. Like, you've been a planner, I think, through and through. Like,
Yeah.
ekdam ऐसे hardcore. So let's talk about that part of your journey right now. Like, how was it like building a career in account planning, like versus maybe client servicing or, those more creative copy and design departments? Because you're also a very creative person. So how was
I
it like
don't.
building? What?
Yeah, uh, I think everyone's creative. Just a side note is just that which field it is. Again, that's just the discovery of it, right? Figuring out which field is. I remember. I'm just trying to give you an anecdote from my college days. When I went to Simbi again, I was very outspoken, and I was the kind of guy that would enjoy that kind of college because you had to come up with ideas, you had to link things, connect stuff, talk, present. It was just my deal. But there were a lot of people who were not that kind, and they would get anxious of people like me, think अरे जो साहा इतना है, ये इतना है, ये देख उसको देख, these are all the creative people, what am I doing here, right? But then I should say that, it's not that, dude. Like, you're creative in your own way. Maybe that person would be able to uh, like who's saying that to me can like really do good presentations. That's also a creative thing, right? You're telling a structured story in a way, right? Or that person could actually uh, hand draw very nice things on a book, right? Or, art. Ooh, you give me a pen, my hand will slip through, and I'm not even going to be able to hold it, right? As I said, my hands are not like meant for those kind of like very minute, tricky activities. So it's just different people have different ways of being creative, because at the end of the day, all of us are creative every day. It's just that the definition of creative, especially in the advertising industry, is very uh, sharp and focused on certain type of activities. I don't think that's the way to look at it. It's just a side note for people who think they're not creative. You are creative. All right. So
I think that's the best message to put out there. Everyone needs to know that. They just need to find that creative space wherein they flourish.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, the account planning part I think came naturally when I was going through the subjects that were being taught to us. There were subjects like consumer behavior, behavioral economics, and marketing. Obviously, as a whole itself was giving me a lot of interest. But these specific subjects, plus there was this whole module called account planning, which was taught by Rishabh Nair sir. Hi, Rishabh sir. And he was the planner in Lintas, which is a big traditional agency, and it started as a agency which used to do work only for HUL, Hindustan Unilever, and he used to work on a lot of these, HUL brands. So when he used to tell the stories of what his work was and how they would like sort of come up to these campaigns, and the research that they would be doing, and the consumers insights that they would be sort of mining, I was like, okay, this is something that I have to be the person. Can't see myself being something else. While you can always say that, the creative part, why didn't you feel that? I always, while I sort of had it in my head that, okay, I could change these ads and all of that stuff, but I never felt strongly uh, uh, pulled into the whole, let's write a line or land this creative campaign. I was more about what's going behind the scene, and all of these subjects was all about the why of things. Why is this happening, right? So if you see behavioral economics and consumer behavior, and in all of this account planning and how you consumer mine insights, it's all about why. And I think I was very intuitively a people's person who wanted to know what's happening, why it's happening, what are you all about, and that got me very interested. So I was like, okay, account planner to banna hi hai, along with obviously some other people, batchmates that wanted to be an account planner with me. But it was not easy to get into the account planning profile, because the industry at that time said, okay, you are just a person who have just begun. You can't just become an account planner because it's a senior role. Even if you want to be just an account planner, you got to do servicing work, understand business. And at that time, I was like, ye kya chutiya pe? What the hell is this? Why do I have to know the business, etc., to become an account planner? Not knowing the realities of stuff, obviously. But you could do an internship, because internship तो कर ही सकता है account planning में. Who cares? Internship में तो कुछ भी कर सकते हो, right? So when I was interviewing for internships in college, I got two profiles. So internship तो कहीं पे भी कर सकते हैं. Internship तो account planning में कर ही सकते हैं, right? So we can do that. So I said, okay, internship, let's start with account planning. And we were interviewing for internships as well. Like, college got some, companies, and I was not getting into any of the agencies. Like, I was not getting. I like, what the hell? And even in that situation, they were like, so some people had already worked, some people already had some exposure, some people already done some projects. I'm like, what the hell? My CV is just blank. What have I done till now, right? People would come with you, okay, we internship kiya hai, falana mein ye kiya hai. I'm like, where? What have I been doing? I've been just lost in the space of learning. I don't have anything on my CV. Like, these things were not told to you. And then, I was not getting ahead because other people had better CVs. and something that you will teach hopefully the modern marketer, that this is how you build your start. Because we didn't have that knowledge, and then even being interested and having the knowledge, I was not getting into the interviews because I didn't have anything on my CV. So then one company came. It was a research company. I'm forgetting the name. It was one of the big research companies, not the Nielsen's, not the Nielsen's.
Nielsen's?
Okay, let me see. Not Nielsen and
Kantar,
Kantar. Not
IMRB.
them. There's another big research companies. Let's type. Not
Not
TAM.
TAM, no?
Ipsos. It was Ipsos. All right. So Ipsos came, and Ipsos को मैंने मेरे Deloitte वाला credentials I sold them. I'm like, all right, Ipsos, you corporate people, you need corporate people. I got corporate experience. Leave all this ad people behind. I'm gonna be with you, right? So they had this research profile. They had this consumer research profile. So I'm like, okay, I am studying ad, and I know I am all interested in research, and plus I have corporate background, sir, from Deloitte. So you got to take me. So then they were interested in me. I got the interview. I came to Bombay. I gave an interview, and I got that role also. Okay, in Ipsos. It was a nice 10,000 rupees internship at that time. All right, crazy stuff. And I'm like, okay, all right, Ipsos research. All right, research. So then my brother again comes to the picture, and I'm a little confused because I was like, okay, listen, if I get into research ना, 3-4 साल 5 साल बैठ के research करूंगा in a research agency, in a corporate. I'm not going to get any ad agency exposure. Right? That whole feel of ad agency तो नहीं मिलेगा मेरे को, right? So my brother was like, you don't have any other interviews. He then again saves my ass. He says, okay, there's this person that I know, and my brother's friend, she works as a PR in Ogilvy. She was in the PR department. And shout out to you. I'm forgetting your name, but she helped me a lot. I'm very bad with names, and I just don't remember. I don't know if I am. I don't know what kind of disease I have. But she then referred me to this agency called MNC Sachi, to the creative director of MNC Sachi, right? Deepak Agarwal. I remember his name, and I just land up there. I do this Ipsos interview. I'm just cutting stories. It's not really aligning, but yeah, I mean, in the same Ipsos interview, after that day, I also landed in this MNC Sachi, and I say that, okay, I want to do an internship here. So then Deepak, he's the CD, he's this flamboyant, creative flair, the usual, wears a hat, smokes, and the usual madman creative, right? Out of Mad Men, you just take him out of Mad Men, right? So I'm like, oh, nice. This is what I want to be. I want to be here. They're a small agency in Sakinaka. They were not very big. They were in this between stage where they were doing digital work, but they also had some mainline work, but not TV work. But they were doing out of home. They were doing more direct mailers. So very different kind of work. Right? So I'm like, बाहर में जाइए सब. I want to be here. आप account planning का मेरे को दोगे ना role, तो I'll be here. Whatever you say, I'll do. But give me the account planning role. That's all I want. Right? So he's like, yeah, great, come. But there's no money, sir. You can come whatever you want to do. There's no money. There's no internship fees. You can just come and do. So then I had to take this call between a 10,000 rupees internship in a corporate like Ipsos and no money internship in MNC Sachi for an account planner role. And again, I did some thinking here and there with my brother, and then we finally took the call of being in MNC Sachi, being an account planner. So then money can go for a ride. I said, let me get the experience, let me get the exposure. So even at that time, we took that call. Even though money was important, which I keep telling people in today's day that, you got to take the experience first and then the money. Because if you think just abhi mere ko I need money, in the long run, you will be able to earn more money just by getting experience. So your experience, which is time, is equal to money. So time and money ka that correlation, people don't understand that well, and I try to keep telling them that, bhai, there is this correlation. So at that point of time, we said that let's take the exposure as the money, and then I would be then set off on that track and path that I would want to run on. तो फिर account planning का job मिला वहां से, So did this internship 2 months there. Uh, New city, Bombay. I didn't like Bombay at all initially. I was hating it, right? It was like packed, crowded, and we were staying 6 people in this, like, 1 BHK turned 2 BHK, which was full of rats, and it was horrible, and we were staying in Andheri West, right next to Shopper Stop, that place. I don't know where, but we were staying there, and my office was in Sakinaka. So we took the flat in Andheri, thinking Andheri hai, Andheri se Andheri jana aur kitna time लगेगा, not knowing that Andheri West से Sakinaka जाने में 1 घंटा लगता है, right? This is pre-metro, by the way. This is pre-metro. And I'm losing my shit. I'm like, what the hell is this? 1 घंटा वो बस में जहाँ पे जगह भी नहीं है बैठ के मेरे को जाना पड़ रहा है. I'm going from Andheri to Andheri. This is Bombay. The spirit and shit. I'm like, I'm hating it. And then, all that happens. And then to add icing on the cake of my desperation, not in the positive icing on the cake. Maybe there's a better analogy I'm not getting. My phone gets stolen, like in the bus in Sakinak. I'm listening to music as always, and all of a sudden, like, there's no music. The earphones are like hanging out of my ear, and that's it. That's that. Come back home sad, and so that happens. That's my internship experience. I get the experience. I leave. I'm like, fuck it. I'm going back to Hyderabad now. Bombay is done. I never want to come back to Bombay. I'm going to come to Bangalore. Bangalore is where I did my graduation, so I have comfort. So, and that time, only the jobs were only available in Bombay, Delhi, and Bangalore. These were the 3 cities, right? These jobs. So then I sit for a final placement in this company called What Consult. This is a digital agency, right? Digital social media sort of agency. And even after my internship, this last 1 year, we all decide between us that whether we're going to go into digital or we're going to go into traditional, because all we have learned till now was traditional. How to crack a TV ad, do the research behind that, big campaigns and all that. Digital, there's none of that. Digital is a completely new world. We don't understand shit. We don't even understand if that is a world that, we should get into, right? It's like 2013. We don't know anything. Facebook is all about some Farmville and shit, right? So we're like, what is going to happen? Like, what is this thing? You're looking the grand TV and you're looking at grand campaigns and you're like, really, do you want to be in digital? What is this shit, right? But some of us we took that call, which includes Mihir Palan, who's also one of the mentors who's teaching us, media planning and audience planning. He's my batchmate from Simbi. So we 3-4 of us are like pro digital. We're like, digital karenge. We will go and we'll do digital. We are seeing all these campaigns that are, on digital, how it's happening. It's all happening in US and UK at that time. We were all sort of seeing campaigns there, and we were seeing India mein sab kaise karte hain, kaise karenge and all that. So then What Consult comes. Again, it's an agency that was doing things before its time, I would say. 2013, they were all about Facebook, games. They were doing this engagement stuff and all that. So we're like, okay, we will go here. We do our interviews, and they take at least 10-12 people from our college at one go. They're like, oh. So now I look back and I feel that, okay, they were like really growing. They had a lot of requirement, and they were like, we'll take people from this college. So then some people go into PR. So some people, they had like, our college had specialization as well. So we had advertising, media, and PR. These 3 specific things, right? So some people are going into media planning, where they're going and actually planning media for Facebook, Google, the whole Excel sheet sort of thinking, and back-end dashboard thinking. Then some people are into PR proper. They are doing PR for that company. And some of us were becoming client servicing people, because, we were supposed to be the more generalist as advertisers or marketing people or whatever we were, right? So I did that 1 year. There was no account planning. I was just used to do client servicing and, I figured how the social media thing worked, and, how digital was working at that point of time. So that 1 year of strong experience gave me a lot of understanding of digital, social में क्या होता है, audience कैसे behave कर रहा है, क्या है, क्या नहीं है, and all of that, right? I soon leave that company. 13 months I stay there. I was clear that I don't want to be here after a year. But being backward or traditional or whatever, millennial, we were like, nahi, 1 साल तो बिताना ही है यहाँ पे. Gen Zs would just take off bye bye. So we were like, I was like, nahi, nahi, बैठना है 13 months, 12 months नहीं, 13 months, 12 months. People will say, why 12? Just 1 year. Like, 13 months करेंगे. So I did 13 months there. And then I'm trying to figure out account planning कहाँ पे कर सकते हैं, right? That, do we get a place where I can do this role now, especially in digital, because it's very, very tough now. You could do that in a traditional setup, even though, you would say that you need 2-3 years of experience, but in digital, there is nothing called account planning. What is account planning? Digital people are just doing social media में campaigns, इधर उधर का वो platforms figure out कर रहे हैं बैठ के कि ट्विटर में कैसे क्या कर सकते हो, ad units क्या है. So it was all becoming more media led. It was more about ad units and engagement units and how you measure ROI. So that world was becoming very input output, as I keep saying that so I had this philosophy. I wrote a blog about that as well, that there are two worlds of marketing. There's this one input output world of marketing, which is this world that digital was becoming, that कि आप इतना पैसा डालोगे, इतना लोग डालोगे, इतना लोग engagement करेंगे, इतना फलाना engagement करेंगे, right? So that is what that world was sort of becoming. And in that world, I had to figure out, though I love digital, ke, how do I really do account planning here? Like, either account planning kahan se hoga? Like, is there any place to do strategy work, do insight work? Because it looks very, very flimsy right now. People are just trying to figure out what's happening. So I get this, I don't know, I think it was LinkedIn, I don't remember, but I saw this job opening of account planner in a digital agency called Experience Commerce. I'm like, bhai, ye kya hai? Ye to dream hai. So then I apply and then I go for the interview. They were in Andheri at that time. Small, bustling office. Again, as a digital agency, they were growing just like What Consult. And you had to just put trust, because these are not known names. I mean, even Experience Commerce till date is not a known name, because my CEO Sandeep, who's also teaching, by the way, as a mentor, he never believed in publicizing his own company. So I was like, okay, I was going for the profile, not the brand. I was like, okay, I will do account planning work there. I go, I interview with my then manager, who became my manager later, rather, Tania. And she was speaking in the language that I was like, oh, yahi to hai. Consumer insight, digital mein experience, ye karenge, wo karenge, falana. I'm like, yes, ma'am, this is what I want to do. I'll come. And they liked me. Thankfully, obviously, I'm sure there were other people who would have come and interviewed. They gave me an assignment to do, which I did pretty well. And because I was just ready for that day, that when someone will give me this presentation to do, right? And I did that. She gave me some changes. I did that again. Then I was talking with the HR and, negotiating a bit, whatever is possible. And I just wanted to get that job. So then I landed up in Experience Commerce, and that place has been maybe, if not monumental, but pivotal in what I am as a professional, right? So 60-70% of what I know and what I have learned is from that place. And sometimes that place makes you, like, aaj ke zamane mein it's all sort of work from home and hybrid and all that. But, that culture, and that it's like a pot, like, they say this isn't a melting pot of culture. Like, what does that mean? But, you just be in that and you just brew yourself and you come out and you're different, like, you're molded into a different personality. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's a long answer, but yeah, that's my account planning career. And that's when then when we started doing like really strong digital strategy led work, because the brands that were there, while in What Consult, they were having like volume work done. Here they were doing work which were like very ahead of its time. They were doing digital experience, that the whole name Experience Commerce was about how you could purchase through experience, right? So the name came from there. So it was like way before its time. Like, they were doing this from 2010, 11. I couldn't imagine, right? Stuff like that. So Sandeep and his co-founders and everyone who were there doing this stuff. So they had like large brands like MRF. They had like large brands like Diageo, USL, who were interested in these kind of experiential work, who were interested in building these engagement engines, this digital led. It's a different world, right? Not only about advertising. And that sort of led me to become like a more of a problem solver thinker than thinking कि ये advertising होगा इसके बाद, right? That my whole world was about, okay, after this will just become advertising. So no, it's a consumer problem. How you want to solve it? There are different ways to solve for a problem, right? So then I grew pretty quickly there. My boss left. Then we were in an independent team, all reporting to my CEO Sandeep. This was a tough time because all of a sudden I was like reporting to someone that I didn't know how to handle, right? It was like CEO से directly बात करना हुआ तुमको अभी, right? It was like, all right, how do I figure out? How do I speak to him? Do I WhatsApp him? How many times can I ask for feedback? It's like really tough world. And again, there was no mentorship or anything to figure out कि क्या होगा वो, how do you build that bridge? But thankfully, he was the kind of person, I won't say thankfully, but maybe just it fit the kind of person that I was. He was the kind of person that he would like let you be there and he will just observe you and he will see if you are fit or not. Otherwise, just leave. Like, you would, it's like trial by presentation, trial by PPT. Trial by PPT. So, when my boss, Tania, my manager, she was leaving, she was in her notice period. We had this big pitch of Fortune, Adani. Right, and Adani wanted to be on digital, and these were times when they're just trying to be digital, like this was okay, digital mein banna hai, kya karna hai, all that. So they called for a pitch. I did this pitch along with my manager. I did a lot of the research and everything, and we went to Ahmedabad. We were staying in the Adani's. They have this huge ass campus, far from Ahmedabad, a little far from Ahmedabad. And we stayed the night, and I was like, just 10 o'clock, we had dinner, and I was like, okay, next day pitch hai. So, okay, now let's sleep. Let's we got separate rooms, 3 of us. And I'm like, okay, I'll sleep now. And then I suddenly get a message on my WhatsApp, like, come to Sandeep's room from Tanya. I'm like, okay, what is this? Like, maybe they'll just discuss something about tomorrow or whatever we can do. I'm like going and intense brainstorming, intense thinking, and intense PPT changing is happening. I'm like, oh God, what is this? And I already had this funny thing, and I'm already like not in the mood to work. I'm sleepy, and I'm like, okay, all right. Then Tanya tells me that, okay, Abhimanyu, this is the part that you need to do. Give me 10 slides on this. I'm like, wow, 10 slides on this right now? We have a meeting tomorrow. So she's like, yeah. So I go to my room, which also had very less internet connection. The Wi-Fi was sucking at that time. I used my mobile Wi-Fi. You worked on mobile, which at that time was not unthinkable because you couldn't work on mobile. It was not, your mobiles were also not that powerful. I created these slides and I sent it to her. Next day we all get up, and my manager, she has food poisoning from a dal bhati churma stuff that we had. All right. She's food poisoning. She can't even come to the presentation. She's in the hotel. All right. Sad. But what is more sad is that then I have to lead the planning part because my boss is going to lead the business part. There are only 3 people and my manager is not there. And then trial by presentation is ready for me. That, okay, now it's your time, Abhimanyu. You can. So he obviously trusted, and he obviously didn't have option to not trust because there was no one else. But he did trust, and I did come out on the other side, like presenting well. And again, presentation was not something that was a weak point for me because I was always doing the structure storytelling well. But this was something different because this was like assimilating a lot of knowledge, absorbing, and not knowing what they would want because the CEOs of Adani and all of them are sitting, right? But that went well, and I came out on the other side. Trial by presentation went well. I was successful. I came out alive on the other side. So from there on, the relationship became, then he started trusting me, and then I grew very fast in the organization. I never asked for like appraisals कि मेरे को इतना चाहिए, hike and all that. I was getting, and I didn't even have this thing to ask इससे ज़्यादा क्या ही पूछेगा, right? So I got, and then I became strategy director to a point where I had to actually tell Sandeep that this year I don't want a promotion because I'm already strategy director. Where do I go now? It will just keep I will just get bloated with this thing, and I don't want this. So yeah, that's the long story of my professional.
I was at the edge of my seat on so many, on that ride. It was honestly like a ride. So many interesting things to unpack, like right from the time you had to choose between the traditional account planning and the digital account planning. And that brings me like to a very quick question, which we will like just touch upon briefly after this. But the anecdote around doing the Adani pitch, oh my god, dude, that was trial by presentation.
Yeah, yeah, right.
this this is becoming a
For
clipboard
sure.
session. I'm telling you right
Trial
now.
presentation hook.
But I think it was fascinating to listen to how your journey went about in one particular place, and I think that goes on to show that if you find the right kind of setup with the right kind of people, you can actually go on to have like a very good professional experience, great experience of your career. Because to this day, you mentioned that it has changed you, it made you a different person. You're still in touch with everyone you worked
Yeah,
with, to the point you're partnering with them in your new thing that you're working on right now. So I think it gives hope, and it definitely is a lesson to for everyone who's listening or who's thinking about making career moves, that you should prioritize finding a the kind of role that you really want to work into, the kind of work that excites you, and b even I like working with the right kind of people, because then like you will grow as a person and there is no stopping you.